is going on, people? Welcome back to Double Clutch Auto Reviews, and thank you so much again for tuning in for another review video. My name is Mark, and today I am here with this brand new 2022 Subaru WRX Premium. The Subaru WRX has a long and luscious history in the rally racing world, but this one has stirred up quite the controversy, particularly about the looks. Yet, is it still a great car to drive? Let's dive in and check it out. This brand new WRX was provided to me for the day by Mastria Subaru here on Route 44 in Raynham, Massachusetts. The people here at Mastria are awesome to work with. They also just got a huge number of new cars fresh on their lot right now. If you're interested in checking out this Subaru WRX or one of their many other cars, come check them out. I will put all of their contact information, website links, and phone number in the description below. And we'll start off under the hood with this all-new motor for the WRX. This is the turbocharged 2.4-liter flat four-cylinder, making 271 horsepower at 5,600 RPMs and 258 pound-feet of torque at 2,000 RPMs. And that is mated to a good old 6-speed manual transmission along with a manual handbrake, which I am very happy to see. And that's putting down power to all four wheels through Subaru's tried and true symmetrical all-wheel drive system. Fuel economy is rated for 19 in the city, 26 on the highway, and 22 miles per gallon average overall. With a 16.6 gallon fuel tank, you can expect a range between 315 and 430 miles on a full tank. The max boost pressure of this engine stock is 12 psi, 4 less of the 16 psi of the previous model years, but this engine has been beefed up by 0.4 liters of displacement. Yet it's been given only 3 more horsepower and 0 more pound-feet of torque than last year. And the cylinder stroke, the distance that the piston moves up and down, is the same, but the bore, the width of the cylinder, is wider. So this new WRX makes 25% less peak boost than last year's, but it has 20% more displacement. Subaru states this engine is less peaky and more robust with more low and mid-range torque. That makes it more user-friendly for daily driving, what a lot of WRX owners do, and they say that this engine will be more receptive to tuning. So clearly Subaru is listening to their customers, at least a little bit, except for the fact that this is the same motor in the Ascent and the Outback, which isn't a problem, except in those applications, they make more torque. For instance, the Ascent makes 260 horsepower, so 11 less than the WRX, but it makes 277 pound-feet of torque. That's 19 more than this car. The Ascent is a much bigger car, so I get it. It needs all that torque that it can get. But why didn't they just make this motor have that much torque as well in the WRX? Apparently, Subaru states the reasoning behind not giving this motor all of the torque that it could handle was because it's already better than the competition. Sure, the Volkswagen GTI has 241 horsepower and the Honda Civic Si has 200 horsepower. That is technically true, but that seems like a pretty bad cop-out to me. Why would you not want to take a great platform, make it as good as it reasonably and possibly could be, and blow all of the competition out of the water? Yet they're just settling for good enough because they're already better than the rest? Not gonna lie, it doesn't sit well with me personally, and I think that they could have squeezed an extra 19 pound-feet of torque out of this motor. When are we going to crack that 300 horsepower and torque benchmark in the WRX? The world may never know. The new WRX does come with a CVT transmission as well, or better yet, Subaru calls it the Subaru Performance Transmission, as the term CVT is the new 14th bad word of the car industry, apparently.
Don't you mean they're only 7? Not if you're a sailor.
I have heard, though, that it's apparently a very good CVT transmission. It's very efficient and it puts down power well as shifting very quickly. Regarding the 2021 WRX, last year's model, the manual was better than the CVT in every single way. The car weighed 140 pounds less. It also got 2 to 3 miles per gallon more on average. It even had a faster 0 to 60 time of about 0.7 seconds, 5.1 compared to 5.8. It was also more affordable, about $2,000 cheaper, and it was obviously more fun. Everyone knew that. However, in the 2022 WRX, the CVT and the manual have just about the same 0 to 60 time, around 5.7 seconds. And the fuel economy is just about the same. But the CVT does weigh 150 to 200 pounds more than the manual counterparts, and of course it is much pricier, around $2,300 more now. So nowadays, if you want a WRX but still need an automatic, maybe it's not the worst option in the world to go with the CVT. I'm sorry, the SPT transmission. But you still can't shake that extra weight or that extra price. Despite all of the thought and engineering that Subaru put into the SBT CVT automatic transmission in the new WRX, they did make some rather weird and I think poor decisions regarding the trim levels that you can get with the WRX. I'll explain that later. What's great though is that Subaru made the new WRX 3 inches longer overall, 1 inch wider with a 1 inch longer wheelbase, giving you 6 more cubic feet of interior passenger and cargo room, but they did it without really adding any weight to the chassis. That's really impressive. I'll throw up some more dimension specifications on the screen right now. Pause the video if you'd like to take a look at those. And now let's talk price tags. The base trim of the WRX starts just under $30,000 USD, and this one, the premium trim, starts just over $32,000. The next trim up, the Limited, gives you some ultra suede trimmed upholstery with some steering responsive LED headlights, and that one starts at $36,500. And the top trim, the GT, the piece de resistance of the WRXs, you get Recaro seats. You also get electronically controlled dampers with 3 drive modes. Comfort, Normal, and Sport. They give you quite a dramatic difference in suspension stiffness that you can change on the fly. And Subaru's EyeSight driver assistance package, which is essentially all of those safety features plus adaptive cruise control. And that starts at $42,400 USD. The problem is you can only get the WRX GT in an automatic, a CVT automatic. No manual is offered in the top trim WRXs here. So you're telling me that if I want the nicest trim WRX with the Recaro seats, the electronically controlled dampers, and the driver assistance package, 3 things that I think a lot of serious WRX drivers would want, I have to get an automatic? To me, that is a very bizarre and disappointing decision on Subaru's behalf, especially given the fact that 85% of WRX owners have a manual transmission, and given the fact that other auto manufacturers have figured out how to implement those driver assistance features like Subaru's EyeSight with the adaptive cruise control and whatnot in a manual transmission car. I don't know why Subaru made that decision. It seems like a detrimental one to me, but we'll see how that pans out. On the plus side, Subaru has put a lot of time and effort into developing the SPT, or Subaru Performance Transmission. They made it a lot more responsive and faster shifting than a lot of CVTs that you would typically see in other economy cars. My original thought was, why don't they just slap in a dual clutch transmission like Porsche or Volkswagen and call it a day? The funny thing is, CVTs are actually super efficient. They are actually able to put the engine RPMs in the optimal position for the best amount of power output and fuel economy based on the given load of the engine at that particular moment. CVTs are also a lot smoother and overall better than dual clutch transmissions at low speed crawling and starting from a stop, especially in like rush hour traffic or daily driving situations, what a lot of WRX owners are probably going to do. The problem was, everyone knows that last year's WRX CVT transmission was just absolutely awful, pretty much inferior to the manual transmission in every single way. But now, Subaru has implemented a lot of time, effort, and money into the new CVT and the new WRX in an attempt to capitalize on the ever-growing sales of automatic transmissions in North America, especially considering the ever-dwindling sales of manual transmissions. Only 3% of brand new cars sold in North America are manual transmissions. And Subaru was mainly targeting the competition like the Volkswagen GTI, for instance. Their goal is to sell more WRXs in general. That's always a given. However, they figured if they made the new CVT that much better than the old one, they can get more individuals to come over to Subaru that were planning on buying an automatic anyway. Of course, many people, including yours truly, the what would be manual transmission buyers, aren't going to be converted. So they're going to sell the 6-speed manual in the 3 lesser trims as of right now. It makes sense though that they are trying to pull more people from the consumer market that are interested in a style car like the WRX, but they just practically can't own a manual, or they just don't want one. And now let's talk styling. Oh, the styling. Easily the most controversial topic regarding the new WRX. Everyone, of course, has their own opinion, and I know you're going to decide for yourself, but I'm just going to give you mine if it's worth anything. We'll start with the front end. I actually think it looks all right. It's not the worst, but it's also not my favorite WRX. Subaru certainly didn't skimp on the aggressively sharp angle design factor. The side profile, I don't think it's really that bad at all. There's a lot of aspects that I really like about it. I like the side skirts, the wheels, and I particularly like these widened, beefy fenders that they gave the new WRX. They really add a brawny and aggressive road presence to this car, like a rally car should be. The classic plating fenders, though, seem to be the biggest point of controversy about this car's styling. And I get it, if they were color matched, I bet a lot less people would be upset. For some reason, that doesn't bother me as much as it does other people. I don't think it's the worst aspect of this car's styling. On the bright side, though, at least we know that they won't rust, and if they get some rock chips on them and whatnot, if you're driving the WRX as it should be driven, I'm assuming that they can be easily replaced. There is a functional air vent on the front one, though. You gotta love that. It looks cool, and it has a purpose. There's also this texture all over the plastic cladding that apparently definitely helps with aerodynamics according to Subaru, but I don't think I'm buying that. That makes any real world measurable difference. The only thing is though, driving this car over gravel, you can literally hear almost every single rock kick up into the wheel well. I don't know if that's a design flaw or not, but it's definitely noticeable. And yes, I'm sorry to say, the rear end looks like it got an atomic wedgie wearing a pair of granny panties, mainly due to that diffuser and the trunk and spoiler setup. When this thing first came out, I was honestly appalled. I think pretty much most of us were. However, the design has been revealed and out for a while, and it's given us time to absorb it. I've been seeing them in person out on the road. I'm not gonna lie, it's starting to grow on me a little bit. At this point in time, I don't hate it. I might get some flack for that, but that's my honest opinion. I feel like I've seen uglier cars overall, don't you think? I do have to point out that one of my favorite styling aspects of this car, ironically on the rear end, are the taillights. It's not particularly the shape of them, but it's actually what's on the inside. This magma looking design that's supposed to look like flowing lava. I've also heard that it kind of looks like broken glass. Some Mercedes cars have that trick in the taillights too, but I just think that look is so interesting and fascinating. I love how dimensional it looks. To me, it almost looks like red amethyst stone. I really, really like that. The overall look of the rear end though, purely from a design factor, even with the cool taillight effect, no way. I'm not feeling it. I'm sorry. The way that it has these multiple contours, like steps almost coming up from the trunk lid up to this stubby little rear lip, it just does not complement the shape of the car at all, in my opinion. Plus the full diaper diffuser, I'm sorry to say, it's just quite unsightly to me. What's hilariously ironic is every time Subaru comes out with a newly designed WRX, there is a huge outcry about how everyone hates how it looks. However, people always seem to come around and sales are very strong regardless of the initial opinion. So this may take 6 months, a year, or 2, or maybe never. But as more time goes on, I'm predicting that more and more people will warm up to this new WRX. At least I have. I saw someone comment something very funny once. Subaru has the uncanny talent of coming out with something that looks horrendous at first, and then pretty decent after 2 months of first seeing it. I don't know how or why, but it's very funny how true that is, especially with this new WRX, at least in my opinion. So we'll see what the verdict is in a year or two. All right, and now coming on to the interior of the 2022 WRX. The first thing that I noticed is that this is not a bad place to spend time. There's a little bit of black plastic here and there, especially by the window switches, around here and whatnot, the climate control vents, but it's forgivable for a car like this. We also have some carbon fiber maybe trim right here. It looks nice. These climate control vents also look really sharp. I like this sleek design. This aluminum piece sweeping down in front of the passenger on the dashboard also looks really nice. I feel like they tied this interior together pretty well. As far as the seat comfort goes, these are not the Recaro seats that you get with the GT, but these are satisfactory as far as I'm concerned. They feel grippy and well bolstered in tight corners, but they're not uncomfortable at all. Definitely an excellent balance for a daily driver / fun vehicle when you want it. I'm going to throw up some more front seat dimensions right here. Pause the video if you'd like to take a look at those. And now taking a look at the gauge cluster. Subaru kept an analog tachometer and speedometer. Absolutely have no problem with that. I actually prefer that for a car like this. In the center of it, you can see we have our boost gauge. I'll rev it up for you now so you can see how that looks. The steering wheel looks great, really sharp. I like it a lot. It's also a D-shaped or flat bottom steering wheel. It also has a really nice thickness and just overall feel with the leather. I'm a big fan of it. We have our gauge cluster center screen, volume controls, and the push to talk button on the left, and our cruise control buttons on the right. They also put a little bit of that carbon fiber trim again at the bottom as well. Looks nice though. We have the traction control button on the left, as well as our trunk release and our gauge cluster dimming switch. The one thing I do not understand though is the trip reset button. I mean, sure, I guess it's easy to push, but why does it have to be so humongous? I've never seen one that big before. It's kind of funny. Nonetheless, a little quirk of the new WRX. And now moving on to the infotainment screen. This is the 11.6-inch touchscreen from Subaru. I've heard some people like it. I've heard others that don't. My verdict is I very much like the fact that the icons are very big. They're very easy to push, especially while you're driving, so you don't have to look too far from the road to change the app that you want to use. It's also relatively responsive. Takes maybe half a second to a full second to switch between menus. Not that big of a deal though. It does have wireless Bluetooth connectivity and Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. There are also some funny things you can configure in your settings. We of course have our clock, display, Wi-Fi settings and whatnot, but if you come down here, we have our welcome screen and our goodbye screen. I already showed you the welcome screen when the car started up. You can turn these on or off, whichever you choose. But for instance, I'll turn the goodbye screen on, I'll shut the car off, and I'll open the door. The WRX leaves you with a nice parting message. Just goes, see you. You're also probably wondering what it does with the goodbye screen off. Simply just leaves the infotainment on until you open the door, and then it just goes blank. Some other funny things you can configure that Subaru likes to put into their infotainment systems are the birthdays and anniversaries. You could set a specific day to remind you of a birthday, so the Subaru wishes you a happy birthday on that specific day. How funny. Same thing goes for the anniversary. Not gonna lie, these are probably a lot smarter than you would think, especially for the anniversary. Might help you not forget a special day for a special someone. Very, very smart, Subaru. I wish every car had this, honestly. I'm also a huge fan of the fact that they kept a physical volume and tune knob. There's no reason why we should be implementing those into the screen unless you absolutely have to. Those should always be physical knobs. Same thing with the fan speed control. Unfortunately, this is not a knob. You have to come down here and tap, 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 tap.
Give it a little tappy. Tap, tap, tap-a-roo.
Or just kind of push and hold it. Not a big fan of that. At least the temperature controls are physical buttons, but you still have to either push and hold or tap, 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 which was a knob. You can just turn it and be done with it. The heated seats also don't have their own button. They are incorporated into the infotainment system. You have to push the little icon right here, then it pulls up another screen, and then you have to tap another icon to turn the heated seat to the temperature you want. Wish it was just a button. Other than that though, I think people are going to be happy with this infotainment system. It's easy to use and it looks nice. Moving down below that, we have two USB ports. They're actually USB-A, funny enough, not USB-C. We also have an aux jack, just in case anyone's still using aux. Not gonna lie, 2022, I feel like there'd be a USB-C port in here. Next to that, we have a 12-volt outlet and a little storage compartment below it. And then moving down to the gear lever, this is of course a 6-speed manual, tried and true. I love it. We have a little storage compartment, can't really fit much there besides your key. I guess that's a decent spot for it, right? We also have two cup holders of different sizes. One is a little bit shorter, one's a little bit taller. I like that a lot. You can also pull this little doohickey out and create a different size storage compartment if you don't want the cup holders, but you want to store something bigger in there. Pretty useful. Moving to our center console, pull it up, relatively small space, whatever. There's also a 12-volt outlet in here, so at least they implemented that. Not gonna lie, I wish it was a little bit deeper and maybe they had another USB port or two. Oh well. We also have a sunroof in this premium model. Definitely like that a lot. It is, of course, just one touch, automatically goes all the way back for you. And it goes back quite far, pretty much to where the sunshade stops it. They don't skimp out on how far the sunroof opens for you, unlike the 2022 Camry that I recently reviewed. Closing it up though, I've noticed that this car doesn't have a little sunglasses holder. I feel like they could have implemented that. Not sure why they didn't. Okay, climbing onto the rear seats of the brand new 2022 WRX. As I said earlier, the new model WRX did gain a little bit of length and girth compared to last year's model. And that's also without really gaining any extra weight. That's fantastic that Subaru engineered it like that. There's more room in this interior at pretty much every angle, with the exception of rear headroom. It went from 37.1 inches down to 36.7. That's all it took for this newly designed sloped roofline to rob even more of your rear seat headroom. That was probably the worst part for me, sitting in the back seats of the 2021 STI that I reviewed at Mastria here not too long ago. And I'm 6 feet, around 200 pounds, and I had a hard time fitting back there. This car is definitely even worse. I maybe had about an inch, if that, of headroom to play with in the 2021 STI, but now if I sit straight up, I pretty much have no headroom at all. My head bumps right up against the roof, which is definitely not comfortable for any sort of long trek. But I will say, if I don't sit straight up, if I kind of just slouch a little bit like this, I'm fine. I'll do for maybe half an hour, 45 minutes at the most. Wouldn't want to be back here for much longer than that though. What's great though is, in fact, the legroom has increased in the rear from 35.4 to 36.5 inches. And I have the driver's seat in the position as if I were driving the car. I mean, I have legroom for days now. Not gonna lie, I really would sacrifice an inch or two of legroom to get an inch or two back of headroom. As far as the rear seat amenities go, I like how they implemented this carbon fiber-esque trim into the back. It incorporates the front into the rear. They didn't cheap out on the rear entirely. I like that a lot. We also have two USB ports back here. The 2021 STI didn't have any, so that's definitely a plus. We also have a rear seat armrest with two cup holders and some door pockets and a cup holder in each door cubby. And now take a look at the trunk. You can open it one of three ways. You can either push the button on the key fob, push the button by the driver's seat, or the little latch right here. The trunk flies right open for you. The opening is a little bit short, but it is rather wide and deep. You can fit quite a lot of stuff back here. The only problem with this trunk though, and I say it every time I don't find it, they didn't put a grab handle here, so you have to put your grubby fingerprints on the paint, or you have to awkwardly grab this latch and then slam it down that way. Let's fire this bad Larry up. Don't have to put your foot on the brake, just on the clutch. You can hear a lot of exhaust noise coming to the cabin, even just on a cold startup. But for a WRX, not necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of the character of this car. All right, and we are off, driving the brand new 2022 WRX Premium. First thing I have to point out, even though the heated seats don't have their own button, they're integrated into the infotainment screen, the settings do save. So when you shut the car down, go to start it back up, whatever setting you had it at, it saves. Love that. Thank God someone's listening. I find it very annoying when the heated seat setting doesn't save. So kudos to you, Subaru, for finally doing that. All right, let's do a little downshift. Give her a little pull, see what she's got. So right away, my first impression is very similar to the 2021 STI I just drove at Mastria Subaru not too long ago. The clutch feel is immediately very light, very easy to downshift, rev matches really nicely. Definitely a good car to learn how to drive a manual transmission on. Steering's very responsive actually, very, very responsive. There is a little bit of vagueness though in the steering, but it is quick to respond and the car handles well. So now I'm on the highway and there's a little bit of noise coming into the cabin, pretty much all of them, wind, road, engine, exhaust, but it's not unbearable. I'm in 6th gear, going about 70, 75 miles an hour, actually 72 right now, turning about 2,700 RPMs. The driving position is very comfortable. I like these seats a lot. I like the steering wheel. It feels great in my hands. The visibility is also fantastic. I can see all around the car very easily. I feel very comfortable and confident in this car. I wish the driver's seat could go a little bit lower. It's a little bit high up for a driving position, especially in a car like this for me personally. I'm sorry though, Subaru. I absolutely hate this turn signal. Absolutely despise it. I don't know why we have to try to fix things that don't need fixing. This is one of those turn signals where you hit it and it actually goes right back to its original resting position, but it still keeps blinking, so you kind of have to do a little half click in the other direction to turn it off. Not a fan, not a fan. If you want to make a little lane change, you just got to do a little deep. It'll blink several times and then you make your lane change. But as far as just making a normal turn, I really don't like the fact that it comes back to its normal resting position. Just let it stay in the other right or left-hand side. Why do we have to do things like this, Subaru? Come on. I don't have drive modes, as I said earlier, because we're in the Premium, not the GT, which honestly sucks. I really would have liked to see different drive modes, even if they didn't have the electronically controlled dampers, even if they just stiffened up the steering a little bit or increased the throttle response. I would have appreciated that. So apparently this newly implemented dual pinion electric power steering system that moves the assist motor off of the steering axis makes the steering more predictable and communicative to the driver. It makes the precision of the steering more linear and accurate, and it tightens up the steering ratio, giving you a quicker response. Speaking of which, the on-center dead spot is like pretty much minimal, maybe like a half of an inch to a quarter of an inch. It is quite responsive. Do a couple of downshifts. There we go. Give her a good pull. I do hate that turn signal. It takes a little while to get up and go. Pulls nicely though. You're not going to be winning a lot of drag races, whether it's from a dig or a roll, but I will say for a daily driver application, especially around town stuff, this engine feels quite nice. So yet again, just like in the 2021 STI, it's very hard to shift super quickly. You really have to wait a second and let it fall into gear. You can't just bang it in. For a performance-oriented car, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't think I'm the biggest fan. When I want to shift quickly, I want the transmission to let me shift quickly. Let me know in the comments below though. Maybe it's just me, but do any of you have any issues with shifting your WRX or STI transmission very quickly or hard? Let me know. Regardless of that though, this is still a very fun car to drive. Just listening to the engine though, especially at low RPMs, it sounds good. I know it's no EJ with the unequal length headers and whatnot, but Subaru tuned this motor to still sound pretty good. All right, now let's take it on some real back roads, see what this thing can do. Yeah, more body roll than I would like, but the steering feel is really good. Some people said that it was too light of a steering for a WRX. I kind of disagree. I mean, it could be stiffer, yeah, but it's not bad. Body roll is more of a problem for me. Yeah, feels great. Fun car, fun car. The steering is a tad over-assisted feeling, but it's nothing crazy. I think they did a great job tuning it. Hear hear the tires squealing a little bit. So I was just driving on those curvy back roads, downshifting and upshifting frequently. The transmission felt so much better. It felt really notchy in the perfect way. Just went right into gear, no problem. I felt like that's where the car truly belongs, on a curvy back road, but not doing full throttle pulls in a straight line, pinning the RPMs all the way to red line, because the transmission doesn't seem to like that compared to what I just did. I guess my verdict is the acceleration, satisfactory. Nothing special, but will get you by. Handling, actually quite fantastic, a lot better than I expected. Clutch feel is good, braking feel is good. I'm also not feeling any huge surges of boost when I'm accelerating through the power band. It's actually quite linear, which is good. I'm pretty sure that's what Subaru was going for with this power plant anyway. Man, I'm making these tires squeal. Oh my God, awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, everyone, back to driving in normal traffic. It's all good though, that was a blast. Good stuff, Subaru. I'm a fan of this car, I'm a fan. I would say this platform is just begging for mods though, as you would expect out of a WRX. Maybe a cold air intake, catback exhaust of course, aftermarket blow-off valve, and a tune. Hey, now we're talking. So this WRX Premium is also upgraded with the Harman Kardon sound system. Let's hear how it sounds. All right, guys, that pretty much wraps up my review of the 2022 Subaru WRX Premium. I want to thank Mastria Subaru so much for letting me borrow this car for the whole day. I really appreciate it. They're great people to work with. Go check them out if you live in the South Coast or Southern Massachusetts area. They also have a huge inventory on their lot. If you're looking for a Subaru right now, they probably have what you're looking for. I very much hope you enjoyed this little review video, and I also hope you learned something from it. If you did, please let me know. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Also, do you like the new WRX? Do you not like it? Let me know. I want to hear your thoughts. If you did enjoy it, please leave me a like and also consider subscribing to the channel. I know people hate when people ask, but seriously, guys, it truly helps me out. It means the world to me, and it's at no cost to you. I'm trying to get off the ground here, guys. I need y'all to help me out, so I sincerely appreciate it. Thank you so much. Take care, stay safe out there, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Peace. And it's on the rear end. It's these, or you have to grab this latch awkwardly. Can't even do it.